2022 distinguished alumni with us. At this time, if you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I think so.
Could you please stand for the national anthem? Please remain standing for the alma mater. Perfect. You may all now be seated. Thank you to our choral members. Thank you. Each of the individuals on this stage have made significant contributions in the areas of education, medicine, and engineering, and have accomplished extraordinary feats in their careers while remaining true to their start at Forest Hills and always maintaining the motto, "Excellence is the tradition." The Forest Hills Alumni Association is honoring 2 alumni posthumously. Edward Tarrick graduated from South Fork Croyle High School in 1955 and was vice president of his class. He was born, raised, and lived his entire life in South Fork. Mr. Tarrick was a school teacher, a principal, and eventually served as assistant superintendent of Forest Hills School District. And his vision, along with that of Paul Robinson, helped pave the way for Forest Hills to become a district of excellence. He was also active in his community as a founding member of the South Fork Jaycees, president of South Fork Municipal Authority, a community coach, and volunteered anywhere that he saw a need. Mr. Tarrick passed away in April of 2007. Today, we have with us Mr. Scott Lewis, Mr. Tarrick's grandson, here to speak on behalf of the Ed Tarrick family.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Lewis, and I'm the grandson of Edward Tarrick. I want to first thank the Forest Hills School District for allowing me to speak on my grandfather's behalf. Secondly, I would like to congratulate all the other distinguished alumni for such a great honor. Congratulations. And lastly, I'd personally like to thank Carol Ciceri for nominating my grandfather for this prestigious achievement. The silent generation refers to the generation of people born from 1928 to 1945. The children who grew up during this time frame were known for working hard and keeping quiet. One of my heroes was born during the silent generation, and boy, did he fit the hard-working mold. My grandfather, Edward Tarek, was the son of Slovak immigrants. Edward was orphaned at the age of 11 when both his mother and father passed away within a two-year span. Despite the early adversity, Ed attended South Fork Corolla High School and graduated as the vice president in 1955. Growing up, I always admired my grandfather, particularly his genuine care for family, friends, and community. My grandfather was appreciative of all the people that helped him, especially in the rough parts of his life. He was very thankful, especially for his older sisters who made significant sacrifices to raise him and set him up for future success. One thing I always remember my grandfather telling me was to help those in need, especially family, friends, and community. Following high school, Ed attended Kent State University on an academic scholarship and was a member of the Golden Flash football team. He graduated from Kent State in 1960 with a teaching degree. My grandfather valued education. He valued it so much that he devoted his entire career to helping the school and community. Further, he was always willing to educate himself throughout his life. During his lifetime, he attended Ball State, West Virginia, and Ohio State to further his credentials to become a better educator. My grandfather's academic career at Forest Hills speaks for itself. During his professional career of over 30 years, my grandfather wore many hats. From teacher to principal to assistant superintendent, he had the same mindset of genuine concern for the school and all associated. I'm certain that my grandfather impacted countless students, teachers, and individuals of the Forest Hills community. Further, he was instrumental in improving the district. Some of his accomplishments include the formation of the Forest Hills JC Group, the organization of the professional development program, and the development of the district newsletter, just to mention a few. He loved the Forest Hills community in his hometown of South Fork. Ed was the founding member and president of the South Fork JCs, an organization dedicated to community service and development. He was also the president to the South Fork Municipal Authority. Further, he was never afraid to volunteer and always lent a helping hand, whether it was a role as a community coach within his church or just as a laborer. Both of my grandparents spent countless hours of service and volunteerism throughout the community, a community in which they so much loved and valued. I am proud to be the grandson of Edward Tarek. My grandfather's story is remarkable. I try to model my grandfather's legacy in everything that I do. There's truly so much that I've learned from my pap, Edward Tarek. First, never let status or circumstance get in the way of your dreams. Secondly, always treat people the right way while giving back to the school and the community. And lastly, display integrity in everything that you do. My grandfather always used to tell me, and all of us as grandkids, always do the right thing even when no one is watching. The orphan baby from the silent generation had a loud impact on the Forest Hills community. Congratulations to him, my grandfather, Edward Tarek, on this great honor. Your legacy lives on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Scott. Mary Peters Powell is a graduate of Forest Hills High School class of 1979 and was valedictorian of her class. Mary and her sister Barbara suffered from cystic fibrosis, and in 1975, the Forest Hills High School JC and JCettes started an annual basketball marathon to support the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation in honor of Barbara and Mary Peters. That marathon continues today as the district-wide volleyball marathon that also supports the Aaron Hostetler Scholarship. Mary defied the odds of a survival for a cystic fibrosis patient born in the early 1960s. She graduated with highest honors with a degree in electrical engineering from the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown, and had a highly successful career in that field for 28 years, interrupted only by a double lung transplant in 1994. Mary passed away in March of 2022 from complications related to cystic fibrosis. Her husband, Milton Powell, and Mrs. Eva Septic, who maintained a close friendship with Mary that began here as students together at Forest Hills, will speak on behalf of the family.
Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. Thank you, Forest Hills students, faculty, and staff, and the Forest Hills Alumni Association. It's an honor to be here today to represent my wife, Mary Powell, the former Mary Peters of Forest Hills. Mary would be very proud to be here today. I am very proud of her myself, proud of all of her accomplishments before we met and the time while we were together, especially her desire to fight, especially her desire and fighting spirit to live life in the fullest, even though she struggled with cystic fibrosis and its ill effects on her body. What got her through these times was her faith in God. Mary's always knew education would lead to her success as a person, a friend, a sister, an employee. She wasn't sure if she'd ever be a wife, but she sure was a great wife and friend to me. I have been truly blessed, and I'm a better person because of her. Mary's parents, her father is here today, 90 years old and still very active. Her parents knew the value of an education, and I can tell you, and your teachers know this, and your administrators know this, that education is the key. It's the key to your future. It's the key to our country's future. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, from one side of town or the other, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, that with knowledge and education, you cannot be denied. Now I want to introduce Mary's friend from 7th grade through high school, who knew her best during her times here at Forest Hills, who will tell you, say a little here about Mary here at Forest Hills, co-valedictorian in 1979, Eva Septic.
Good afternoon, everyone. My friend Mary began her school career at two of the small neighborhood schools in our district. She started first grade at Salix, and then in 4th grade moved on to the Dunlow School until she finished 6th grade. She became my classmate and friend when we began junior high. For those next 6 years, we shared most classes together and participated in many of the same activities. Mary was always a distinguished person. She had that something special that made her remarkable and unforgettable. She had a brilliant mind and was an excellent student. And on top of that, her work ethic was beyond compare. Mary did not know the word quit. She was the valedictorian of our graduating class. She was involved in many extracurricular activities, including chorus, newspaper and yearbook staffs, captain of the Scholastic Quiz Team, Humanitarian Club, Spanish Honor Society, and National Honor Society. But Mary perhaps most distinguished herself during her years at Forest Hills as a standout of the forensics team. Mary competed in the extemporaneous category. And if you're not in forensics, you might not know what extemporaneous means. Mary would go to the meet, be assigned a current events topic, given 30 minutes to inform herself of what that topic was, and then had to produce a speech to do before the judging panel. Mary was a natural. She came home with ribbon after ribbon. She successfully competed not just at the local level, but at state and national competitions. As a sophomore, Mary attended both state and nationals. Our yearbook quotes her as saying, "The chance to attend state and national finals was a real honor, as well as a good learning experience." In our senior year, Mary was the Pennsylvania state champion in her category. She was the first Forest Hills student to achieve this honor. Her forensics coach, Henry Pelasco, was so proud of her. Mary attained all of these tremendous accomplishments, as previously said, while living her entire life with cystic fibrosis, a debilitating lung disease. But Mary bloomed where she was planted, and she did not let this chronic illness define her. This is truly what made Mary distinguished. She took every opportunity that the Forest Hills schools offered her, and she made the very best of each one. Mary then went on to distinguish herself at UPJ, where she received her electrical engineering technology degree with those highest honors, summa cum laude. Following college, Mary bravely relocated to the Baltimore area and worked for more than 25 years in her field. Her projects included work with radio frequency and sonar analysis, circuit design, and hardware and software testing. She also conducted interference analysis for Navy radar operations and for Air Force exercises. She truly distinguished herself in her chosen profession. And in 1985, Mary's very first design, a preamplifier and hydrophone, garnered her a patent with her employer, Gould Industries. This design is still used today on all United States naval ships and submarines. Mary continued her education in electronics and received her Maryland Professional Engineering License in 2009. This licensing is well respected in the engineering community and led Mary into satellite and telecommunication positions and work with the International Telecommunications Union in Geneva, Switzerland, which is governed by the United Nations. While a representative of the U.S. delegation in Geneva, Mary was asked to speak to the international community about satellite and 5G communication matters. And Mary would return to this prestigious conference in Geneva twice more. But most importantly, Mary distinguished herself as a truly good human being. She persevered despite her health struggles. She endured lung and kidney transplants and the removal of her pancreas due to cancer. And following each of these major surgeries, she returned to work and she continued to live a full life. She was humble, kind, and caring. She never boasted of her own accomplishments, and she rejoiced in the successes of her friends and family. Throughout her entire life, Mary distinguished herself as a true model of our Forest Hills motto, "Excellence is the tradition." Thank you very much.
Many of you may remember our next honoree, Donald Bailey, a graduate of the Forest Hills High School, class of 1968, and a founding member of the Forest Hills Alumni Association. Mr. Bailey served Forest Hills School District as a teacher, assistant principal, director of education, and superintendent. His football coaching career is legendary. 45 years as head coach at Forest Hills, 9 undefeated seasons, 27 years seasons in the district playoffs, 17 District 6 playoff games, 5 Region 3 championships, 5 years in the Final Four, and PIAA state finalist in 1994. He was inducted into the Pennsylvania Coaches Hall of Fame in 2010 and the Cambria County Sports Hall of Fame in 2020. Please welcome Mr. Donald Bailey.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure and an honor to speak with you today. I would like to congratulate all of the other members of the 2022 Distinguished Alumni Group. There's not enough time for me to thank all the people that had a role in the success I've had throughout my life, throughout my teaching career, throughout my coaching career. So I'll not try to point out names right away because those names may be missed that are very important to me. Many of you do remember me as the former football coach, but as it was stated, I was much more than that. I was a teacher, assistant high school principal, director of secondary education. In my final 10 years, I served as superintendent. I was born in South Fork and raised in St. Michael. I went to elementary school in what is now the Long Barn. That's a nice memory. You guys have some pretty good elementary school memories from where you've gone. We walked to school from St. Michael, even to high school eventually, until we got a driver's license. We played baseball, football, and basketball every morning, noontime, and evening after school. That's where many of us got our love for the sports that we participated in when we got to junior high and high school. Education wasn't all that important in my house growing up. My parents thought it was important for me to graduate from high school, get a job, or join the service. Most of the jobs around here at the time were steel mills or coal mines. I didn't want to work in a steel mill. I didn't want to go into coal mines. I was the only one in my family that graduated from high school. My younger sister eventually got her GED. I was fortunate to have many teachers take an interest in me and guide me. I was fortunate to get a football scholarship to Southern Illinois University. I thought all through high school that I was going to be in the NFL or I was going to play in the major leagues. Due to a serious knee injury and a real lack of talent, I had to go to Plan B. My Plan B was to be a teacher and a coach. I was prepared for Plan B because of my junior high and senior high teachers. Plan B was really, what to me was the 4 F's. Faith. I have led a blessed life. I've been blessed more ways than one, and really I could not have ever understood the many blessings I've received throughout my lifetime and my career. Probably a lot more than I deserved. 2, family. I have a wonderful wife, two sons. One is the director of education at Richland and Brandon, and also the football coach. And Derek, who is the manager of a huge Apple store in Long Island, New York. I also am the proud grandparent of 5 grandchildren. Faculty, the 3rd F. I've been blessed with many outstanding teachers while attending Forest Hills. They all touched my life in some way. 2, however, changed my life. For some of the people on this stage, they may remember some of these names. Ada Donahue was an 8th grade reading teacher. And some people would not believe this, but I was a very shy person all the way up till high school. One day in class, she called me forward and asked me if I watched the movie the night before on Disney. And I hadn't. She said, "Do you know that you look just like that little boy Bristleface in that movie?" I didn't know that, but I was pretty happy because I was in a movie, I guess. She then told me, you know, on the SRA, which is an independent reading program, some of you again remember that are on the stage, said, "You are doing as well as my students in the top section." She says, "If you really work hard, you can be a very good student." She told me I had the potential to be that kind of a student. She taught me that if I worked hard and I read a lot that I could be successful in all my subjects. She developed my love for reading. And you can ask my wife or anyone that knows me, I do read a lot. Every morning I read everything that's in the newspaper. I read books. And you always be a lifetime learner. Andy Perriton, he was my junior high football coach and also my basketball coach. He gave me advice that lasted me a lifetime. He was tough on me, and sometimes I really didn't like him. But his toughness helped me to grow into the person I became. While at Southern Illinois, I suffered that serious knee injury, and I wanted to quit school and I wanted to quit football. Because I had a shoulder operation when I was a senior and had 2 knee operations my freshman year in college. And I didn't want to play football anymore. And I came home at Christmas, and I told him I was going to quit. He said, "You're not allowed to quit." And he wouldn't let me quit. He says, "But I will help you transfer to a school, but you got to stay in school." And even though now I wasn't on full scholarship, he helped me to stay in school. And it was through him that I was able to be who I became. As a teacher and as a principal, I had 2 of the best mentors in Ed Terrick and Paul Robinson, both of whom will be honored here today. They both taught me how to be professional, how to be a supervisor, and how to treat people. One of the things I remember most about Mr. Terrick, besides being one of the finest gentlemen I ever met, was a quote that he gave to me. Everything you say and do will affect someone somehow. It might not be that day, it might not be that week, it might not be that year, but something you said or do will affect some student in some way. And he was so right. So for you teachers, I used to tell our teachers, everything you say and do will be held against you, whether it be positive or negative. Hopefully most of it's positive. Mr. Robinson, Paul, taught me about preparation, about discipline, and how to supervise. One story I like to, I was a little upset at the time, I like to tell is about my very first graduation speech. I was the principal at the high school in 1989-90 school year. And I really wanted to make sure this was a good speech. So I got some different books that had speeches, and I wanted to make sure I touched all the bases. Well, you ever hear the commercial, "Don't let them see you sweat"? I was sitting there, and Mr. Robinson went first on the podium. He was the superintendent at the time. And he gave the exact speech I was planning on giving. My first graduation speech was total ad lib. It wasn't what I expected that night, but it came out okay. And friends, as you look around in here and find the people that are your friends, some of them will be leaving you. You might not ever see them again after high school. Others will be with you for a long time. I had 2 special friends that, growing up, helped make me successful, and they were part of my life and still are. Ray Daniel and I went to elementary school. We went to middle school. We went to high school. We played Little League. We played high school football, basketball, and baseball. Ray then was one of my assistant football coaches. He was also an assistant high school principal, elementary principal, director of elementary education, and then his last few years he was my assistant principal, my assistant superintendent while I was superintendent. Rick Rudick. We played football together. He coached for me for 35 years. And still every third Friday, he and another group of coaches, we go to breakfast out at the corner kitchen. So we have stayed together all those years and still trust in each other. I've had a lot of players as a coach, a lot of students as a principal and superintendent. Never had but one NFL player. But I said it almost every time I speak. I've had thousands of professionals. Many of you will be on those professional ranks someday as doctors, lawyers, engineers, architects, teachers, or whatever field you choose to go in, because that will be the success you will be, because you will work hard to get there. And the most important thing, most of them have become important fathers, husbands, and citizens. I'd like to end this with a little word that you've all heard before, luck. Everyone has to have a little bit of luck to be successful. Besides working hard, you've got to be lucky. I like to define luck as preparation meeting opportunity. Be ready to meet the opportunity. And if you don't get the opportunity, be ready to create one. Thank you.
We were afraid it was going to. Thank you. Dr. Richard Knavel graduated from Adams Summerhill High School, one of the precursor schools that joined together to form Forest Hill School District. In 1963, he was co-valedictorian of his class. He has been a well-respected local veterinarian for the past 52 years and continues to practice today at Forest Hills Veterinary. Dr. Knavel was active in the Boy Scouts of America, where he received numerous awards and has helped 24 young men achieve the rank of Eagle Scout. He continues to be active in his community through his involvement with the Salix Community Club and the Lions Club. Dr. Knavel has been a member of the Forest Hill School District Board of Directors since 1995 and also serves on the board of the Greater Johnstown Career and Technology Center. Please welcome Dr. Richard Knavel.
Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. I want to thank the Alumni Association for giving me the opportunity to become an alumni or distinguished alumni, and congratulations to all the other members of the alumni. Good afternoon, everyone. My start at Forest Hills was probably a little bit different than most of you students in the class here, because as Mrs. Roberts stated, I did not have an elementary school to attend like you have here now. We did not have the opportunity to have kindergarten. We did not have preschool either. Our school was the Salix Elementary School, which was one of many of the little schools located in the neighborhoods around the area. I started there in 1951 as just in first grade. We went ahead from there, and each of the teachers in that school, it was a 4-room school, each of the teachers in that school taught 2 grades. There were 3 teachers and a principal. They taught 2 grades, and the principal taught the 7th and 8th grade. Going to that school was one of probably the nicest things I've ever done. You had 2 teachers, you had 2 grades in each room, so each of the teachers were with you for 2 years. Those teachers were able to work with you individually. They didn't pressure you into doing things, they worked with you. Not that we're saying we had any problems like that here in the high school like that, but it's one of those things I enjoyed. They got to know you a little bit better because you went to first grade and second grade in one room, third and fourth in the next, fifth and sixth in the last, and the principal, Tom Buck, was the principal at the elementary high school, or the elementary school. And he was one of the best people I ever had as far as a mentor. He taught me a lot, he worked with me, and I really enjoyed that. So I spent the 8 years at the Salix Elementary School, and that school still exists today. It's owned by the Forest Hill School District, and it's now part of the Head Start program. So after the education there with those wonderful teachers, and they were excellent teachers, and they gave you a lot of attention, I moved on to the high school. Now back then, that was went to the high school in 1959. The high school then was in the process of being remodeled. They had added the wing onto the school. Now that was the old school that we had torn down to put the new school here. But it was a wonderful experience at that school. The only problem I had when I first started out there was making the adjustments, going from a school where you sat the entire day in one room with one teacher. And it worked out well, though. You sort of eventually make that adjustment. There was a lot of teachers there that had a lot of influence on me. There were some sincere teachers. I'm not going to pick out one in particular because there's a lot of them had influence on me. They were all sincere and they were excellent. Somewhere in the 9th grade, I made the decision that I wanted to become a veterinarian. I had always wanted to do that in the back of my mind, but I committed myself then. And it was something that happened in one of the classes in school, I can't remember what it was, that gave me the impetus to go ahead and follow through on my career as a veterinarian. I graduated in 1963, as Mrs. Roberts had said, it was Adams Summerhill High School back then. It was a predecessor of the school we have now, of course, we all know that. I was accepted at the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown in Moxham, which was a section of Johnstown. That was called the Concrete Campus back then. It was an interesting school to attend. It was just like a big square building with all the classes in one room, and it encompassed about 1/2 a block down there. It was an interesting school to attend, but I enjoyed it. But because of my experience and the experience I had at the elementary school and at the high school, I was able to excel there. And I was accepted at the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine after 3 years, which usually it takes 4 years to be accepted there. I went on down to the Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine in Philadelphia. In 1966, I graduated in 1970 with a degree, Veterinary Medicus Doctorate, which is a Latin degree, which is the only school in the United States that gives a Latin degree in veterinary medicine. So it was an honor to graduate from there. My first position was with Dr. Edwin Dahl out in Davisville in 1970. My wife and I came back to the area because we thought we'd like to come back and give to the area, and also because all of our family was back here. My wife was from Salix also, and we actually had attended grade school and high school together. She was a 1964 graduate of Adams Summerhill High School. You could say we were probably childhood sweethearts, and a lot of people say we started dating when we were in 3rd grade, which I don't know for sure, but it's a possibility. I was with Ed Dahl for 1 year, then I moved over to Johnstown Veterinary, what was actually Prothero Animal Hospital then, which was a grandfather, father, and son practice. The grandfather was deceased at that time, but the father was there and the son was there. They were in the practice. It was primarily a mixed practice, but it went over to a small animal practice about the time I joined. So I was with them until the father died, and the son and I had the practice up until 2001 when I purchased the practice, and I had it up until 2013 when I sold it to my associate. I worked with him part-time after that, and I enjoyed working with him. It was a small animal practice only. In 1918, I guess it was, or 2018, I'm sorry, I thought that I'd want to retire from veterinary medicine, but it wasn't in the genes for me to do that. So I did go over and join Dr. Hamady over at Forest Hills Veterinarian, and I've been with him part-time ever since then. I've always been a staunch supporter of Forest Hills, even though it wasn't my graduation diploma did not say that, but it's an excellent school to go to. There are excellent teachers here. They give you an excellent education if you just apply yourself. I'm hoping all you that are in the audience today, as far as students, do apply yourself, because you can get a good education here if you do that. My wife and I have been married for a few years now. We married in 1968, and that's when we had gotten married. That's why we decided to come back here. We have had 2 children. Both were attendees at the Forest Hills High School. One graduated from here, and the other graduated from Votech. They both did very well in their careers because of the education they got here. We have 2 granddaughters. One just graduated in 2020 from here, and the other is in 8th grade right now, and she's doing very well also. So I want to thank the teachers, the staff, and everything that I had at Adams Summerhill High School and for what Forest Hills is doing now. I think we do have a good school, and I encourage all of you to make the best use of it. Thank you.
Dr. Amanda McKendry is a graduate of Forest Hills High School, class of 1997. Some of you may have attended her presentation on conflict management as part of the career presentations being offered the last 2 weeks. Dr. McKendry has a bachelor's degree from Chatham University, a master's degree from the University of Pittsburgh, and a doctorate in rhetorical studies from Duquesne University. She is currently the academic director of undergraduate studies for the Mendoza College of Business at the University of Notre Dame. Dr. McKendry was a standout softball pitcher here at Forest Hills, holding the record for most strikeouts for many years. She also played at Chatham University. Please welcome Dr. Amanda McKendry.
Good afternoon. On Wednesday, I did have the opportunity to meet with students and discuss an area that I conduct research in and that I teach on at the University of Notre Dame, conflict management. We discussed several different types of conflict, and I won't ask anyone in the audience who was there to name those, but we talked about interpersonal conflict, so conflicts between individuals, and we talked about intrapersonal conflict. So that's the conflict that we think about on our own. It's the types of conflict that we struggle with as individuals. It's those significant moral dilemmas that help to shape many of the experiences that we have as individuals. Now, this question may be up for debate about what's the most significant kind of conflict, but for today I'd like to focus in on that element of intrapersonal conflict, those internal struggles. And what I'd like to share are a few reflective actions that I found quite helpful when encountering these various intrapersonal conflicts in my own professional life. Most of these strategies, I can look back to my days at Forest Hills and find the foundations there, whether in experiences with my classmates or with my teachers. And I'll offer these 3 reflective actions, and the first one might be a little bit obvious. But the first one, simply stated, is recognize and appreciate your experience here at Forest Hills. And I use that word recognize purposefully because sometimes we're so busy in the day-to-day activities that we forget to stop and think about what it means to be situated where we are, in a particular classroom, in a particular school district. And as you talk to other individuals who have different kinds of experiences, maybe some worse, some better, take them for what they are, and that is simply just different. And this first suggestion is really important to me because as a first-generation college student, I relied on the knowledge that I was able to find in those connections with the Forest Hills School District early on, looking back to elements of community and the emphasis on a strong work ethic that we've heard reflected in the remarks so far. But particularly for any first-generation college students in the room, you can oftentimes feel like there's this secret information that only certain people have access to. But I can also tell you that it was my foundation here at Forest Hills that encouraged me to reach out to mentors, to reach out to resources, and to begin to use those networks that I formed here early on in my academic experiences at Forest Hills. And I would encourage you to do the same. Sit down and think about those important networks that you have and begin to build and nourish those. Second, reflect on a particular element of your experience that I know we all can relate to, and that is Ranger pride. And think about what that Ranger pride means to you. At its very best, it's the respect and appreciation for oneself and others as members of a common group. It could be elements of being proud. It could be elements of your self-esteem, or it could be a confidence or a satisfaction. In short, it's what allows us to excel in the many activities that we might participate in, whether it's performing arts or sports or academics in the classroom. It's what allows us to perform at that top level to the very best of our abilities. But there is also a shadow side to this Ranger pride, and I'm sure many of us in the room have experienced that as well. Sometimes we can let that Ranger pride get in the way, and maybe tap into that fear that each of us holds about failing at a certain activity or sport or performing arts experience. And it might keep us from overcoming a potentially difficult or challenging situation. My suggestion here, and what I think about a lot, is to figure out the positive aspects of that Ranger pride. And when I recognize that are those elements that I'm thinking of that connect to my own limitations, to work hard and try to overcome those so that I can set out to what I'm meant to accomplish. Lastly, placing your successes in context. Successes are possible because of the many people that we have in our lives, and maybe, as Mr. Bailey was saying, a little bit of luck. In the spring of 2009, when I received my employment offer from the University of Notre Dame, oddly enough, it was a mathematician on that campus who saw something in my application materials or knew something about me and thought that I would be a good fit to make the move from Salix to Pittsburgh and then from Pittsburgh to South Bend, Indiana. Fast forward about 13 years or so, and now it's Mr. Fran Walters, who saw something in my experiences and made me worthy of the Distinguished Alumni Award. My road to professional or personal successes has been paved and made possible by many people in the room, including friends and family. And it's something that we can't forget along the way. So in those moments of success, take a moment to recognize all of the important individuals who have made that moment possible. It's fundamental to what you're able to achieve. Thank you very much for this opportunity to return to Ranger Country and show my appreciation for a community who not only provided a foundation for me to build on, but who continues to support my professional journey and on very rare and special occasions like today, are with me to celebrate my successes. Thank you.
As she spoke about Ranger Pride, I just want to let all of you know the pep rally is today. So I do apologize for those that are leaving, but they are super excited to get outside, and we invite you to join us in our pep rally today. Dr. Walter Prosliak is a graduate of the class of 1970 at Forest Hills High School. He received his bachelor's degree at Juniata College in Huntington and holds a doctorate in pharmacology and neuroscience from Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. He is currently a professor of pharmacology, pharmaceutical sciences, and osteopathic medicine at Midwestern University in Illinois. Dr. Prosliak has won numerous awards over more than 33 years for his teaching style and has mentored over 40 medical and pharmacy student research projects, several in which the student won major awards at regional and national levels. He is also listed as a distinguished alumni by Juniata College. Please welcome Dr. Walter Prosliak.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I think it sounds something like my obituary might read like. Hope it's better than that. But it's a great honor. I really appreciate this award. I've been honored with a lot of awards over the years. I've been lucky, but this means a lot to me. As I was thinking about what to say to this group, I started thinking about how did I get to where I am from where I began. And I think everybody who's spoken so far about Forest Hills in this area has talked about what a blue-collar area it is. They've all talked about the work ethic. I think I inherited that work ethic and the blue-collar mentality. Actually, I think the mentality I inherited may have been more black-collar from the coal dust that my dad dug. My dad, we lived in Dunlow. My dad owned and operated the Progelic Coal Company, and I grew up around the coal mine. And we're supposed to show a couple of slides. I don't know if the one slide is up there. Can you see that? The first slide. It shows a little kid on Nellie the Mine Mule. That little kid is me on the first day of trout fishing season in 1959. I remember at the Dunlow Elementary School, all my friends were going to go fishing, and I had never been fishing, so I pestered my dad to take me fishing, and we were going to what's called the New Dam. It's up on the mountain above Dunlow, and my dad didn't think I could walk that far, so he put me on his mine mule. Nellie is the mule that we used to pull the cars out of the coal mine. So anyway, it was an introduction to this world for me, growing up around the coal mine. Now, I have another slide I would like to show. If you could bring this up. This shows Don Bailey scoring a touchdown in 1968. And you see the top of his helmet. He was the star running back, and he didn't do himself justice. He was actually a really good player. But it shows him crossing the goal line against Somerset, which is who I understand the team is playing tonight. Now, what I want to draw your attention to is the nameless grunt down here. That is me. Now, what I really want to show you is note that this guy from Somerset is knocked halfway across the end zone. He had to buy a ticket to get back in the game. So the bottom line is I opened the hole that Don ran through. No offense, Don, but my grandma could have run through that hole standing up. So anyway, as I was thinking about how I got to where I am, I started thinking about the influence that Forest Hills had on me. And I started thinking about the teachers. And I have to mention some names. Some of you older folks here might remember some of these names. But the first teacher who really had an impact on me was Mrs. Ambro, fourth grade teacher at Dunlow Elementary School. She had taught my father, but she was still around when I was a student, and she was awesome. I see Barb Schoner here. Remember Mrs. Ambro reading stories to us in class? And then in high school, I had some great teachers. Mr. Endler, Regis Endler, taught chemistry and physics. And I didn't appreciate what a great teacher he was until I got to Juniata College. And I took freshman chemistry, freshman physics, and even though Juniata was a hard school, I was so well prepared. They were A's, easy A's. Had some other great teachers. The football coaches were phenomenal. Coach Sponsky, Mr. Tarek, who was honored today, Mr. Endler was also the football coach. And one of the coaches I really liked was Coach Fred Vespa. And Mr. Vespa had been my Little League coach in Dunlow. And we had a special relationship. Mr. Vespa took me under his wing, sort of, and I really appreciate his influence. So anyway, for you students, I don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're going, but you're going to end up in places you never thought you would. And I think you have a great opportunity to get a good education here. I just took a tour of the building. This is phenomenal. And I wish you all the best of luck, and thanks for the award. Thank you so much.
Can we have lights? Paul Robinson graduated in 1959 from South Fork, Croyle High School, another precursor school of the Forest Hills School District, and he was valedictorian of his class. Mr. Robinson began his 33-year career in education as a teacher and went on to serve many roles in administration at Forest Hills, where he ended his service as superintendent of schools. Along with Ed Tarrick, he saw the way forward for Forest Hills to be honored as a district of excellence and put into motion the financial planning needed to make the school building that we are all sitting in today a reality. Mr. Robinson also served 30 years in the U.S. Army Reserve, where he was awarded the Legion of Merit Award by the U.S. Army, which is the second highest peacetime military award. He is an honors graduate of the Command and General Staff College and retired at the rank of colonel. Please welcome Mr. Paul Robinson and thank him for his service.
Well, good afternoon. First, I would like to thank the Forest Hills Alumni Association for the opportunity to come before you to receive this honor and recognition. I'll start by saying it is equally humbling to be receiving this recognition with the impressive group of alumni on this stage. Their accomplishments are amazing, and I'm proud to be part of them. Forest Hills began its long and distinguished educational history in the fall of 1966 after completing a 2-year active duty tour with the Army. In the spring of 1966, I became a member of the first faculty at Forest Hills. Therefore, I had the privilege of teaching 3 of these distinguished alumni when they were students in the senior high school, Mr. Donald Bailey, Dr. Walter Przelic, and Dr. Pete Schoner. Since I'm a graduate of Southwark Royal High School, class of 1959, one of the predecessor schools to Forest Hills, I'll give you a brief history lesson and a trip back in time so that you can compare your school days with mine 63 years ago. I'll take you back to the 1940s and 50s. It was a time when my world stood still. It was a time of no cell phones, no computers, no email, no texting, no tweeting, and no twittering, and no television until the early 1950s. Those families who had a car had one. It was a time of coal dust everywhere, noisy steam locomotives, excuse me, and the smell of burning sulfur from the bony piles on the hillsides. South Fork had a population of about 3,000 people, not like 900 today. It had 7 grocery stores, 2 movie theaters, a number of hotels, and 7 churches. The South Fork School was a 3-story brick building housing grades 1 to 12, built in 1906. They added a new gym in 1936. South Fork Royal High School offered a broad academic and commercial curriculum. Even in those ancient times, we had class plays, clubs, forensics, a prom, band, chorus, school newspaper, cheerleaders, majorettes, and there were elementary schools in Rockville, Fifficktown, and Ernfeld, all suburbs of South Fork. There were only 3 interscholastic sports for boys: football, track, and basketball. There were none for girls. No matter what, we had to be the best smelling generation to have ever attended high school because a shower was mandatory after phys ed class. And the gym teachers inspected your gym bag to ensure you had a cake of soap and a towel. The academic curriculum of this tiny high school, with 72 students in my graduating class, prepared me well for college and for my military career. It included 4 years of English 4 years of history, Latin 1 and 2, German 1 and 2, Algebra 1 and 2, plane geometry, solid geometry, trigonometry, biology, chemistry, physics, journalism, and advanced placement tests. Not much different than today, just no technology. My career at Forest Hills included teaching Spanish, German, and English for 9 years in the senior high school, and also serving as the assistant varsity baseball coach, along with Mike Bria, the coach, for those 9 years. Then I served as assistant principal and principal at the junior high school. And then I served as assistant superintendent and then superintendent from 1988 to 1996, at which time I retired. That 8-year period became known as the golden age of Forest Hills, compared to 1966, when Forest Hills, sadly, was rated by the state as being a distressed school district. The district was recognized as a district of excellence by the University of Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. The credit for this achievement was due to the performances of the principals, teachers, and students of that era, which included Edward Terrick, assistant superintendent, distinguished alumnus, a distinguished alumnus, Don Bailey, senior high school principal, Dave Prostiotsky, the junior high school principal, and Ray Daniel, the elementary principal. My parents were my first mentors. My dad was an engineer on the railroad. My mother taught algebra at Southwark Croyle, Triangle area, and Forest Hills Junior High School for 30 years. They were both college graduates in the 1930s, an incredible feat for that generation. My grandmother, Mary Sherlock, taught 39 years at the St. Michael Elementary School. She lived in Southwark and walked to St. Michael daily to teach school. Sadly, most of my mentors and many of my colleagues have passed away, including my wife and my eldest daughter, Renee. I was very fortunate to meet my future wife, Thelma Noon, at the Rivoli Theater in Southwark. She worked there at the concession stand, making popcorn. She was a member of the class of 1961, the very last class to graduate from Southwark Croyle. We were married for 57 years. She blessed me with 4 fantastic children and inspired them and me to succeed in whatever we chose to do. And they included Renee, my daughter, Forest Hills class of 81, Carla, who's here today, Forest Hills class of 84, Gary here today, Forest Hills class of 86, and Doug, Forest Hills class of 1988. In addition to my career in education, I had a dual career in the military. I was commissioned as second lieutenant through ROTC in 1963. I served 9 years with the Pennsylvania National Guard while teaching at the senior high school. I also served 13 summer 6- and 8-week tours as a senior instructor of tactical intelligence at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in conjunction with the 82nd Airborne Division. I volunteered for a second active duty tour from 1983 to 1985. I was fortunate to be promoted to colonel in 1990 and completed 30 years of service in 1993. I thank you again for letting me spend a little time with you today, and I want to emphasize how much you can achieve given the unbelievable experiences which Forest Hills offers to you. I urge you to take advantage of these opportunities. And before you leave this assembly today, always remember, you are awesome. You can do anything if you believe in yourself, including beating Somerset this evening. Thank you.
Dr. Peter Schoner is a graduate of the Forest Hills High School class of 1975. He has a bachelor's degree from Penn State in mining engineering, a master's in business administration from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, a master's in education from what is now St. Francis University, and a doctorate in education from Indiana University. He was the founding dean of the School of Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics at St. Francis University. Most of the junior and senior classes were treated to a presentation by Dr. Schoner a few weeks ago to kick off the career presentations during September. And if you didn't hear it then, Dr. Schoner is well known for his ability to see talent and direct students and colleagues to make the connections needed to become successful in their chosen career. Pete's Pittsburgh Pipeline, as his colleagues and students call it, has led many students to successful careers, some of which are relatively recent graduates of Forest Hills. Please welcome Dr. Peter Schoner.
Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. Thank you, Dr. Lehman, Mr. Costin, Mrs. Cesari, students, and all of you in the Forest Hills School District for sponsoring this event and welcoming us this afternoon. Thank you also to the Forest Hills Alumni Association for all the work you do to serve the alumni, including this event. As a lifelong resident of the district, I could not be more proud of Forest Hills and being honored today. I'm so thankful for so many who have made this possible for me, including those here on the stage today. Mr. Paul Robinson is the reason I know Don Quixote. Mr. Don Bailey is a neighbor and good friend, and he probably doesn't remember, but he and Ray Dannell were high school seniors, and I was a sixth grader at a foul shooting contest, and they were there serving, sending the balls back to me. Walter Projalek, family friend, probably doesn't remember teaching me how to make apple cider with an apple press in his yard. I do remember many important life lessons, including from Dunlow Elementary. Mrs. McKay, you've heard the name, Mrs. Cariff, Mrs. Ambro. In Forest Hills Junior High, it was called then, no one could draw a round circle as perfectly with a piece of chalk as Mr. Bruce. Still remember that. In high school, you heard the name Regis Endler. He taught me the physics that I needed to succeed in engineering. And Mr. George Mazouris taught me how to not only do trigonometry, but love it. And I still use that today. And another name, Wally Selmer. Mr. Wally Selmer taught me how to golf, which that one might be the best of all that I've learned. There are too many others to mention at this point, but for you students, what we learn to grow and succeed as individuals through the mentoring we receive from so many around us through our path. That mentorship also comes from our families. We are now 4 generations of our family in the Forest Hills School District and its predecessors. My grandparents came from Europe to Dunlow in about 1910. My mother, 99 years old, in the front row here, graduated from Forest Hills, then Adams Township, in 1941, and it was a different world then. She went right to Baltimore to work in a factory building airplanes to support the war. My father, and I'm Pete Schoner Jr., so my father graduated in 1943 from Adams Township. He went right from high school to the Navy and to serve in the war. He didn't know that his high school classmate, Joseph Suey, would later be my junior high school teacher and my father-in-law. Joe Suey also served in the Army and the family has a Purple Heart from his service. So I learned a lot from my father. He was a mining engineer also, and I followed his path. We both worked together at Bethlehem Mines Corporation. They called him Pete and me Repeat. I recall as a child he'd give me algebra or math or addition, subtraction problems, and I'd solve them, and I loved that challenge. I love challenges to this day. My daily Wordle at 6 a.m., and spoiler alert, scorn only took me 3 words this morning. Sorry if I ruined it but you can get it in 1. My sister Barbara helped me along the path. I remember in trigonometry, she helped me along the way. Some of you probably know that like sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. And if you know that and you like that, keep going that direction. It can take you many places. Barbara is arguably the brightest of our family because she's a valedictorian. My brother David is a physician and brother John is an endodontist. None of us are valedictorian. Barb spent 35 years at Forest Hills in the district teaching mathematics. David helped me along my path too. I love mathematics, but I couldn't do it well as a freshman in college, but he was a senior in college and he'd help me over the weekend to do calculus. Got me to a good start. And brother John has already given me several root canals. So I met my wife Diane in Forest Hills in 7th grade. Like our fathers, S.K. Schoner, S.O. Suey, sat next to each other. She helped me through Mr. Robinson's Spanish class. I helped her through Mr. Endler's physics class. We began our senior year in 1974 with a teacher strike. It lasted so long, we wanted to get back to school. Our football season was good, and we started that with a new coach. He's sitting on stage here. I heard the story earlier of the volleyball marathon. I think it was Mr. Endler who inspired our class, a few of us, to start the JC and JCET's chapter here at the school, and we started the volleyball marathon for cystic fibrosis. I don't know how you do it today, but we actually started at noon in the school and went through till 6 the next evening, like we went all night. I don't think you do that. All 3 of my children played in it later, and I hear it still happens. I hope it does. So Diane and I are blessed to be married 42 years now. We have 3 wonderful children, Katie Mihal, Kelly Harris, and Matt Schoner, and 5 incredible grandchildren, Noah and William Mihal, Emma Mihal, Hannah Harris, and Charlie Harris and Hannah Schoner. Our 3 children all had incredible experiences here at Forest Hills, and now Noah and William love every minute too. Katie practices as a dermatologist PA, and Matt and Kelly practice as optometrists. All 3 of them graduated from St. Francis University, where I am. Just a short story, Kelly, when she came with 5 of her Forest Hills classmates, all to be chemistry majors at St. Francis University. I mention it because 5 of them now are doctorates, and 1 has 2 master's degrees. As for me, I went to Penn State in mining engineering, basically following my father. I worked 4 years at Bethlehem Mines, but that industry is a cyclical industry, and when I was laid off, I changed to education. Bethlehem had already paid for my master's degree in business administration, my MBA. I started at St. Francis in 1983, earned a master's of education there. Thanks to my wife, I was able to complete my doctorate while both of us were working full-time and starting our own family. If you know me, I like numbers. My favorite Sesame Street character is definitely the Count, but Cookie Monster is close second. Here are some numbers that tell you what I do. 40 years of teaching at St. Francis, some of these are estimates, taught around 8,000 students and spent about 12,600 hours in a classroom or laboratory. If only based on time, Malcolm Gladwell would say I'm an expert. The number of doctors I've taught is around 250. I've served 2 national offices. One is historian, 8 years for Kappa Mu Epsilon, a national mathematics honor society with about 20,000 members. And now I'm in my 8th year as treasurer of ACAD, an organization of about 1,000 academic deans. As dean now, there are 55 faculty and staff in my school. This year we had 346 STEAM students. We've earned program accreditation, American Chemical Society, ABET, Department of Homeland Security. I've reviewed about 30 other colleges and universities. This most recent year, 21 publications for our faculty, about $1 million in grants, and community events for about 6,000 people. We have a $6 million fine arts center under construction now. So a lot to be proud of, and I'm actually in awe of those numbers and all the people that I've worked with and learned from over the years. So a few life lessons that I would direct mostly to the students. Work hard. We learned that over our lives, and if you work hard, you're going to succeed because people will notice, and you'll get things done. Never stop learning. Learn from your family, friends, teachers, of course, colleagues, and everyone you can. More learning generally leads to more earning also, and generally a better life. Stay positive, whether you're at home, school, on your team, with your friends, with anyone you meet. People will want to be in your classes, on your team, in the office with you. Be your friends. Dream big. You've heard that from others. You can be and do whatever you want to do. Your education at Forest Hills has prepared you well. When I spoke a few weeks ago, I talked about finding the career sweet spot of what you like, what you're good at, and what you can earn a living at. It's kind of like what Confucius says, choose a job you'll love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. I feel that way. And finally, share what you know and learn. Give back, serve and help others. At St. Francis, we say, for it is in giving that we receive. Focus on what others need and try to help. So as I look back on my 12 years at Forest Hills, and we didn't have kindergarten, by the way, that's why it's only 12, and 43 years since, much has stayed the same. Like excellent teachers, tremendous facilities, and work ethic of students. Thank you again to Forest Hills School District and Alumni Association. Congratulations to the other distinguished alumni. Have a great homecoming weekend.